We got our best indication yet that Caitlin Clark is on her way back toward a return for the Indiana Fever. Stephanie White did talk about Caitlin Clark, and I thought the comments were fairly telling. Here's what she had to say.
Caitlin, able to go through your little walkthrough or whatever you normally do, and what do you want to see ultimately to get comfort whenever the time comes?
Caitlin Clark is lacing up again, and the entire WNBA just hit the panic button. After weeks of battling that stubborn groin injury, the Fever's superstar is finally back on the floor. Now the whole league is buzzing with one question: is she returning too soon? Or is this the exact spark Indiana needs to rewrite their season? One thing's for sure, nobody is ready for the storm she's about to unleash. Fever fans are celebrating, while the players who've been throwing shade all year are sweating bullets. What do you think? Should Clark suit up now, or shut it down and save her firepower for next season? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's go.
We went through our walkthrough yesterday. Today it was very short, prior to game time. But she went through it yesterday, and I want to see her in practice. Live in practice. Want to see her continue to work to not just build endurance, but to be able to handle contact 94 feet as it's going to be in game, and to be able to do that and sustain. From an endurance standpoint, and that's going to take multiple practices to make sure that there's no regression. And as most of us know, when we get fatigued, we look different, and see how she plays through fatigue.
The second Caitlin Clark stepped back onto the hardwood, everything shifted. Forget the league's talk about balance. Everyone knows who fuels the machine. Ticket sales, viral clips, TV deals. Clark's fingerprints are all over it. Even at less than full strength, her presence alone changes the math for Indiana and the playoff race. And you can bet Angel Reese, Aja Wilson, and Commissioner Kathy Engelbert are grinding their teeth, because Clark's return threatens the carefully controlled narrative they've been clinging to since she first entered the league.
You see Caitlin Clark, this video captured by Chloe Peterson at Shoot Around. You can see Caitlin doing some work right there, just warm-up work, back and forth on the court, but nonetheless on a basketball court. It's been a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark on a basketball court. Certainly a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark play basketball.
When Clark went down, the verdict was instant. Indiana was finished. She didn't just miss a handful of games, she was out nearly 2 months. That kind of absence can sink an entire season. And to make matters worse, the Fever were already shredded with injuries. Sophie Cunningham sidelined, Chloe Bibby out, Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald shut down. What was left looked more like a pickup squad than a professional roster, without Clark pulling defenders and stretching the floor. With her deep range, Indiana's offense collapsed into YMCA-level basketball, and the results made it clear without her, the rhythm was gone.
Because if you look at the Fever injury list, it's just wild to see. It's like the Star Wars scroll at the end of one of those movies. It's just a endless list of players who have been out, back out of the lineup again, and really just a lineup that you could build if you were the Indiana Fever. You could roll out there if you were experimenting, depending on the situation and the nature of the game.
Fast forward to this weekend, the panic meter is shattered. Practice videos of Clark surfaced online, shooting, jogging, dishing out passes. She hasn't been cleared for full contact yet, but just seeing her move again sent Fever fans into meltdown mode. Comment sections blew up with predictions and debates about when she'd be back in uniform. Meanwhile, league executives glued themselves to their screens because they know exactly what fans know. The WNBA without Caitlin Clark is just another league chasing attention. With her, everything changes.
And there was a little bit more footage here, and you see Caitlin involved on the floor yet again, even handling the ball, working with her teammates. I mean, that's an important sign there, to see her working with her teammates.
And now comes the big dilemma: should she even return this season? The cautious voices say no long-term health matters more than a rushed playoff push. Groin injuries linger, and a setback could be disastrous. But then there's the other side: Fever fans, TV networks, and yes, the WNBA's own marketing machine, all screaming the same thing. The season is empty without Clark. They don't care about 2026, they care about ratings, sold-out crowds, and playoff drama right now. And let's be real, Kathy Engelbert isn't worried about Clark's long-term future. She just wants her golden ticket back on the court to save the league's bottom line.
I notice when you're asking about Caitlin a lot, you bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
But this isn't just about Clark's health, it's about the earthquake her return would trigger. Picture Clark suiting up against the Sparks in a must-win matchup. Overnight, Indiana's playoff odds skyrocket while Los Angeles and Golden State are left scrambling. A healthy Clark doesn't just boost the fever, she tilts the entire playoff race. That's why rivals are nervous. Angel Reese spilled her brand pretending to rival her. Aja Wilson made her jealousy public. All that trash talk evaporates if Clark comes back and starts torching defenses again.
Look like we may actually have some legitimate movement in the direction of Caitlin Clark coming back, and I will sort of look at the schedule with you guys and try to determine what game I think she might actually show back up in.
For Indiana, Clark's absence has been a brutal reminder of how much she means. Aaliyah Boston hasn't looked the same without Clark setting her up with perfect feeds. Kelsey Mitchell has carried the offense on tired legs, dropping a night just to keep things competitive, but it's felt like wasted effort without Clark setting the rhythm. Fans have been clinging to Mitchell's big games like lifelines, but everyone knows one player can flip all that desperation into hope. Caitlin Clark
Against the Sparks, and this is a big game because the Sparks are right there with us on the playoff race, and they hold tiebreakers. By the way, so do the Valkyrie. All right, we do have one win. I believe it's one win over the Mercury. And then we've got a Sky team that we should beat, a Mystics team that we should beat, but you can't. I mean, who knows? I think they beat us in the last game. And then we close out the regular season with the Lynx. We're not making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. There. Yeah, I said it. We're not making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. I don't think.
Here's where it gets spicy. Clark's return won't just lift Indiana. It will humiliate the critics who've been running their mouths in her absence. Coaches like Cheryl Reeve, who've dismissed her at every chance, now have to get for her again. Players who piled on while she was sidelined now risk getting embarrassed when she comes back, drilling logo threes with Clark on the floor. The Fever are flat out dangerous, and that danger is exactly why the rest of the WNBA is nervous.
All right. And it's these two games that are the big pivot games. Sparks, Valkyries. That game right there, that Friday night game, I have a feeling that she might actually return for that game.
And don't forget the referees. These are the same officials who've let Clark get hacked, shoved, and even poked in the eye with zero protection. You think they're excited for her return? Not a chance. Every game she plays will be broadcast under a microscope, with fans dissecting missed calls frame by frame. This isn't just about protecting Clark's career, it's about protecting the league's credibility. But here's the twist. Clark isn't wired to sit back. She's the same warrior who carried Iowa through March Madness wars. Sitting and watching her teammates blow leads eats her alive. If she feels she can go, she'll push to play. The only question, does the Fever's medical staff or Engelbert's league office try to stop her? Because make no mistake, WNBA wants her back, but only on their terms. Clark, she's never played by anyone else's rules.
Not necessarily probably team practices, but being able to put together, threes, fours, and different things that we can go against and match up with.
Great follow-up question by Tony East there, because that's been a question that people have wondered. Is there even enough practice time? And a nice distinction drawn by Stephanie White there, which is important, which means she needs to see Caitlin Clark in practice, but it doesn't have to necessarily be official team practice. Meaning they will be able to replicate what a practice looks like.
Step back and look at the bigger picture. It's almost hilarious. Other WNBA stars miss weeks, and only their diehard fans notice. But Caitlin Clark, she picks up a basketball in warm-ups, and the league shakes like an earthquake. That's why calling it panic mode isn't an exaggeration, it's reality. This league depends on her. If Clark comes back sharp even at 80%, she flips the playoff race overnight. If she doesn't, the Fever are toast and the WNBA's spotlight fades fast. Right now, Indiana is barely hanging on. They've patched their roster with hardship, contracts, rookies, and anyone they could grab. Honestly, if they announced open tryouts tomorrow, nobody would be surprised. Without Clark steering the offense, it hasn't been basketball, it's been survival.
They're not going to sit there with Caitlin Clark healthy and ramping up and just leave her there when they're in the playoffs if she's ready to go. They're going to figure that out on the fly, is how you take those comments. You also take them to mean that Caitlin Clark is back participating with the team, which we got a hint of on Sunday. They've been behind closed doors since then. You start to look at the schedule. I mean, I think at any point, it's getting more and more realistic the more the Fever win without her, the more time is bought. Like, the ideal date may be that Chicago game on September 5th, and since it's at home and there's space between. But you can't totally rule out the road trip either, which still has the 29th, the 31st, and the 2nd.
Clark's return doesn't fix everything, but it gives the Fever something they've been missing for weeks: a heartbeat. Her presence shifts defenses, opens spacing, and instantly makes Boston and Mitchell more effective. Even at less than 100%, her gravity alone makes Indiana dangerous again. That's why rival teams, the Sparks, Valkyries, Mystics, are sweating. They don't want Clark back now, because she doesn't ease her way into games. This is the rookie who casually pulled logo threes in her debut. If she's cleared, someone's about to get torched, and bubble teams know it could be them.
Caitlin Clark is clearly ramping up, not being shut down. Now, there can always be a setback, but it seems like things are trending, certainly, in a positive direction. So, for all the doom and gloom, and of course, I'm not sitting here telling you the Fever are winning the championship or anything, but it feels like their fight is being rewarded. That team is playing hard, they're playing well, people are coming in and playing well on the fly, and Caitlin Clark has healed up.
Meanwhile, the WNBA itself is stuck in a bind. For a month, they've had a break from Clark Watch. No highlights dominating SportsCenter, no debates about whether refs protect her, no viral clips, just a dull stretch only hardcore fans cared about. But with her nearing a return, the spotlight slams back down. Every foul, shove, or missed call will go viral instantly. That's the kind of scrutiny Engelbert hates, but it is unavoidable. And then there's the playoff math. Without Clark, Indiana's hanging on life support. The Sparks hold key tiebreakers. The Valkyries are breathing down their necks, and one bad week could end the Fever's season. That's why her comeback date is circled like the Super Bowl. If Clark plays the Sparks, it's do or die lose, and the Fever's season is done. Win, and suddenly the Fever are alive again. The entire league feels the heat.
I know a lot of you are like, why come back? Why come back? Well, look, if she's back and she can get in the flow and she does need to come back, I think with several games to go to get back and try to find her first rhythm for the year, really and truly, getting a good, then yeah, they become very dangerous with a big three. And look, I'm using that term loosely because Aaliyah Boston has not been great lately. Big 2.5.
Let's be honest, Clark's comeback is bigger than Indiana. It's about the WNBA's survival in the national spotlight. The league has ridden her name all season. Sellouts, ratings, spikes, top-selling jerseys, non-stop highlights, with her even a missed shot trends. Without her, the playoffs look like business as usual. Liberty versus Lynx. Same old storylines. With her, suddenly casual fans care. That's why Engelbert and the league office are desperate for her return. And don't underestimate Fever fans, they've been suffering. 2 months of watching their team blow leads and look lifeless without Clark. But the second those practice clips dropped, it felt like Indiana won the lottery. Optimism surged, and now every fan is asking one thing: when does she finally suit up?
She's healthy, it's just getting her back to where she needs to be from a basketball standpoint. But all in all, you know, even Chloe Bibby, Stephanie White said, would be hopefully back at practice by the end of the week. All things considered, it's got to be the best day in Feverland in a long time.
Of course, the risk is massive. What if she comes back, rusty or worse, aggravates the injury? Groin issues aren't like ankle sprains, they linger and can flare up any time. Push too soon, and she could be sidelined even longer. Indiana's medical staff knows the risk, and the truth is the Fever aren't winning a title this year. At best, they sneak into the playoffs as a low seed. Is it worth risking her long-term career for that? That's the debate behind closed doors. But here's the catch: they can't control Clark. She isn't wired to sit quietly. This is the same player who dragged Iowa through March Madness and made history under pressure. She doesn't hide from challenges, she runs toward them, which is why the shut-it-down crowd probably doesn't stand a chance. If Clark believes she can contribute, she'll push to play. And imagine if Clark returns against the Sparks, drops 20 points, and buries a clutch 3. The internet explodes, ESPN leads with it, playoff odds flip overnight. The WNBA gets its dream storyline, and her critics, like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, are shoved right back into her shadow. That's the nightmare they've been dreading. And now, as her return inches closer, the league pretends to brace itself, but behind closed doors, they're panicking like never before. Should Clark come back this season or shut it down for good? Let us know in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.